Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today.
The attention capturing capacity of visual stimulus. Well, what does that mean? It's that an observer can more easily detect and identify an object of importance. So from 2000 to 2013, 61 firefighters in the US were killed when struck by a vehicle. They identified a failure of drivers to detect a firefighter was a major contributing factor. Go into a building, for example, chances are if there's a fire, that there's some smoke in there. Chances are that the electrics aren't working and the lights aren't on. And what you'll see is our technology is glowing and you can actually really see them. You know, and in a situation where every single second counts, how important is that?
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. Hey folks, before we get into today's episode, just wanted to introduce you once again to our mobile application, Drillbook. Now, if you listen to the podcast, you're probably the sort of person that likes to develop themselves. Now, Drillbook is built to be the home of training ideas for drill grounds all across the world. It's a library of content built by firefighters for firefighters. It's for training ideas, it's for incident debriefs, radio messages. We've got if code templates in there, knots and lines, quick reference guides, interview questions, answers, and guidance. So go in there, check it out. You want to develop yourself. If you're looking to develop a firefighter on your station, head into the App Store or click the notes in the podcast links below. Luke, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Pete. Really good to be here with you today. Had a very good look at a lot of the podcasts you've been doing over the period you set this up, and very, very impressive. I'm not sure whether your servers have melted down with the amount of downloads I've been doing.
You know what? We did get ourselves a massive, big, 20 terabyte hard drive the other day, because this is the beauty of it as well. Like, it actually lives nowhere. It lives everywhere, but also lives nowhere. And that's the irony of a thing like this. But I wanted to kick us off because when I was looking into, obviously I came across your good self on LinkedIn and I'd seen the work that you and the team and the company have been doing. And the first time I actually saw some of the videos that you sent me, I actually interacted with it. I was speaking with my wife about it, and it was that eureka moment, and I'm sure you have it all of the time, where you're like, why have we not always been doing this? Or worse than that, my wife even said, don't they already do that? And we said, no, because we ride horses and stuff like that. And when you go and look at all of our high-vis stuff, it's like, oh yeah, it never did that. So we're going to go all the way into the weeds of PPE, into the world of safety, into the incidents that get caused, the assumptions that get made. But I wanted to start by framing it with a little bit of the history of high visibility workwear, because this, again, is the whole podcast is a massive form of personal development for me. And I didn't realize that when I was going into the weeds of it, it first came out, and please, because you'll be the expert on it, it first emerged in the 1930s. Am I right in saying that?
Oh, well, there's been various.
Someone will claim something of this. The reason I like this example is the man called Bob Switzer. He said he saw his dreams of a medical career squashed as a result of an industrial accident while working at a ketchup and pickle factory. And during the convalescence, he spun the idea of using fluorescent paint to create fabric, and that could be seen, which he then trialed in his wife's wedding dress, of all things. And Bob served this incident too. Went on to found a corporation in sort of 1946, and then went on to develop a whole host of fluorescent paints and pigments. And that's kind of where my first introduction, my dad ran a building company, and then I worked in factories and had a number of rubbish jobs in industries before I was lucky enough to get into the UK Fire and Rescue Service. But I wanted to move then into sort of framing when you first engaged with sort of this sort of sector, whether that be industry or emergency services, and kind of give us a whistle-stop tour of how you find yourself talking to me today.
Sure, thanks for that, Pete. Yeah, I can go into more detail about, particularly in the
Please
UK,
do.
how the standards. Well, maybe I drop into that now as you've raised it. But I always tell this story. I can remember when I was a kid, and my best friend, his father, worked on the railways. And they used to have. Now I haven't seen you, Pete. You're not as old as me. But they used to these things.
I had a terrible childhood.
No. I'm saying you look a lot younger than me. But the reality is that he'd come back from work and they had these things called donkey jackets. I don't know whether you've heard of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And they used to supply those onto the railways. And he was having a bit of a dance around the fireplace. I can even picture him now. Yes, because they just put a rave glow bright orange patch across his shoulders. Yeah.
Nice.
And he was like showing it off. And I was like thinking, when I talk about standards and stuff, that somebody at that time in British Rail, they didn't have to have it. It wasn't a legal requirement. I mean, that started really about 1974, the health and safety.
I was going to say that was a real game changer. You could just imagine the sort of things that people were doing before then. I remember speaking to somebody the other day about the chimney sweep industry and how that was horrific as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you'll find, and as part of my discussions today, is talking to you that innovation, what innovation does, innovation drives the change of standards. It's not the other way around, really, because if you think about it today, if you just talk about flame retardant fabrics, because we're talking about the firefighting market, a standard's not going to come out that a fabric can't achieve, is it?
No.
So, it can ask for the best protection, and it can set the bar extremely high. No fabrics can actually make that standard. So what was the point in having the standard? What usually happens, or how standards develop and move on, is innovation shows that higher, better, brighter, all of these things, levels can be achieved, and then it's adopted and written into standards. And this
I always think the standards are created like in reverse. And what I mean by that is we can have these big aspirations, but like you say, it's always based on the reality of what's available at the time. And people seem so accepting of that. They're like, oh, well, that's not achievable. And we see this with the contaminants market now. And they said, the washes are only getting 20-something% of contaminants out of it, and all of it's still in the fabric. Well, they probably knew that a long time ago, but they couldn't set a standard because we need firefighters to go out there and do the thing.
Absolutely. So what you've seen is, I mean, going on from the 1974 Health and Safety Work Act, and then 1985 they came out with something for the highways as a British standard, a 6629 standard, which said, well, there's moving cars and stuff around where we're working, and people are getting hit. Probably we best put something in there to make sure people are in high visibility clothing, because people were then understanding, and industry was understanding, it's better if people are seen. Yeah.
How much of it, though, when you've been in those rooms and heard those conversations, do people not argue back things like, oh, we just need to train people better, and push it back onto the person and say, well, it's their fault they didn't have a cordon in place, or, in the instance of the railway, it's their fault they didn't notify people that were working on the lines, because back then you wouldn't have even known if you'd have hit somebody, probably, because you're going that damn fast. And I've seen videos of people hit by trains, and the driver won't even know sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is PPE should be viewed as the last line of defense. But, we're humans, aren't we? So humans, what we do is we err. We don't always follow every single procedure. We're not always aware of every single variable, etc. So it really is about being visible. I mean, there's studies that have come out. I've been looking at a great study that came out in 2019 in America. And really, it's about what they talked about is the attention capturing capacity of visual stimulus. Well, what does that mean? It's that an observer can more easily detect and identify an object of importance. Yeah. I mean, you see stats come out. So from 2000 to 2013, 61 firefighters in the US were killed when struck by a vehicle. And what they identified, and I've got this stuck in my mind, is that they identified a failure of drivers to detect a firefighter was a major contributing factor. So how
I think
important is
when we
it?
were talking the other day, it was that aspect of, and again, I'm sure you have these revolutionary moments where people that are like, by the time I've seen, how far do I really think my headlights can see? By the time they pick up your high vis on your tuning, I've hit you. I've
Yes.
already hit you. If I'm traveling at 30, let alone if I'm traveling faster than that on these country roads where, I come from a rural area when I was on call, and we were round the edges of bends, and we were, just in the middle of nowhere between farmers' fields. And by the time somebody's seen you, it's too late.
Sure. I mean, our premise is always about if visual safety does prevent accident and injury, which there's lots of studies which show it does. Yeah. That, and it's not just about cars and things. Yes, it's about seeing each other. Yeah, it's about you've got a Kango hammer in your hand. Yeah, can you see the person next to you, etc. There's lots of different reasons why you should be able to see where visual safety will drive incidents down in terms of injuries or harm. But the reality is, to get to my point, the regulations throughout the UK, for example, and similar can be seen across the world, and there's a reason why I'm telling you all of this, yeah. And now it's enshrined in European legislation through 471, and then more latterly ISO 20471. Now, when we look at international standards today on high visibility, yeah, so it's the same in Canada with SCS standards. It's the same in Australia with their ASNZ standards. It's the same in America with their ANSI 107 standards, etc. They identify two sort of primary areas when they're looking at visibility. So if you just consider a high vis vest, for example, you will see that on construction sites, on the highways.
You can get them on the market, £5.
Yeah, you get them on the market. Yeah, I mean, they're usually bright orange or bright yellow, and they have silver stripes on them. Yeah. So what those two technologies are is, one is the bright background fabric, that's fluorescence, and the silver tape is retroreflectivity. And what that is little glass beads on an adhesive substrate, which basically mean that when light penetrates them, it bounces it back to the original light source. These are immediately reactive technologies, yeah, and it's a bugbear of mine, because I'll go into the history of really where I've been interested in this part of the industry. But they are actually saying the international standards are, you need light to be seen. Yes,
that is a really crucial, definitive difference, is it? Do we adhere to? I know it might be a silly question for people that you work with every day, but I'm trying to take my mind A to my head and B to the knuckle dragging first responder that is probably listening right now as well. Do we adhere to all the international standards? I mean, because I don't know if Brexit and UK and all, because do we pick and choose things? Because I do see, and we speak to people all over the world, PPE is a very wide spectrum and very different applications and rules apply.
Absolutely, and I'm going to go into some of those standards a little bit later. It's
not really thank you.
Story when I started, I suppose the whole process of getting Viz-like DT, because this is what the technology is we're talking about today. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background on how we actually came out with this product, and what it does. It offers what we call is a third layer of protection. So it's not about fluorescence, which is a bright background fabric. It's not about reflectivity, where you need a train or a car or somebody with a torch to be able to see somebody. It works independently as a light source for people working in low lit environment. So that's hence why we're talking and we're supplying into the firefighting market, because there's lots of incidents within their daily operation where they would benefit from this technology. So to just give you a little bit of a snapshot, it's not about me, but of who I am. I finished university, and I can remember I was after a proper job. Yes, didn't know what that was going to be. Did
I'm
business and
still looking
politics.
for a proper job.
Yeah, listen to me about it. But I did a business and politics degree, so it kind of I didn't want to get into politics and things. So I was like thinking, while I'm looking for a proper job, I just went down the job centre and got a job in a warehouse. That warehouse stocked high vis
Hey,
and PPE, yes, but mostly high vis. So I was picking and packing. So that's how I got sort of used to it. And the owner of the business said, "Well, you're looking for a job. Would you go out on the road for me?" And as a sales manager, I said, I've not studied to become a sales manager. I thought that I'm going to do something with my degree, etc. And he tempted me with a Ford Orion. Yeah, I remember.
nice.
I was driving a Talbot. So you probably won't even know what one of those are. So it was a big step up. And I said I'd do it for the summer. But I just kind of went out, saw customers, kind of got involved in the whole thing and understanding of where all these products went to. And one of my customers had just landed and this will tell you how long ago it was because I've been in the industry now for like some 30 years. But it was a British rail contract, and it was to supply all the high visibility to railway workers. And he said, "I don't really know what we've got here, but we've just won this contract. Would you like to come over and run it for me?" So I accepted the opportunity, and I went and got to know all about high vis and railway workers, joined the Railway Industry Association. I got my own PTS, which is Personal Tracks Safety Certificate, so I could actually go out with workers and understand what it was that they were doing, even when they were live line working, etc. And we did
Bloody
lots.
hard work in the rail industry, isn't it? I
It's very
remember delivering sleepers. I get paid cash in hand to do it for a couple of weekends, and it is hard graft in the middle of the night usually.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, you raised the most important point there. If you think about railway work when they're repairing bridges, tracks, platforms, all this kind of stuff, it's done at night time mostly, and that's because there's less disruption to the services
Mm.
because there's less trains that travel at night. So it was interesting, really, for me to try and understand how high vis works when they were conducting their day-to-day sorts of activity. And I found that the retroreflective stripes were very, very good from a distance for a train to at least sound its horn. Yes.
Yeah.
So when they
Used to put
but
explosive charges as well, didn't they, down the lines?
yeah, absolutely, they did. Yes, so you could hear it coming. But the important thing for me was, and I noticed that that was okay. So a train's coming, and the train will know people are on the track, etc., because you can see the high vis from a long distance. But the lead safety, did he know? Did she know everybody was off the track? And the only way that they knew was actually with a torch. Yeah,
Yeah.
just to make sure everybody's off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So an independent light source already then I thought would have a big benefit into the railways.
Mm.
But anyway, I ran that contract. Cut a very long story short. Whilst I was at that business, we bought a fire clothing manufacturing business, and that was assumed within the organisation. And I got really interested in firefighting and also visual safety, and then flame retardant safety, all that sort of thing. Got involved in FR outer shells, moisture barriers, and that, and designed a product.
Mm.
And I ran that business in the end, and I was there for 13 years.
Wow.
And then more latterly, when I left that business, I was working for an American business that ostensibly made lots of different products, but a lot of it was high vis, and we were manufacturing out of the Far East and supplying into the American and European markets. So what I wanted to do, what was a very important part of this clothing that I was manufacturing, it wasn't firefighters' clothing, it was high visibility clothing. It was going into some very hard-end industrial uses and going through industrial laundry, etc. So what I wanted to do was to find the best silver reflectives on the market, because reflective tapes are usually the weakest point of a garment.
Yeah.
When you're
Always
looking,
the bit
when
that
you're
falls
looking
off after you've done 10 washes, isn't it?
Correct. So when you look in the label of your fire kits, Pete, it'll say whatever, 50 washes, 25 washes, whatever it is. And that's usually revolves around the tape performance because it's very difficult to make it stay on there for a long, long time. You know, you've got abrasion issues, you've
I
got...
was going to say, because it's the difference between whether they sew it, impregnate it, or do something else with it, isn't it? And there is cheaper options that, from looking at it, if you don't know what you're looking at, people just go for the cheapest.
Yeah, but it can be the Achilles heel to a fire garment because at the end of the day, if your tape is not working after a few washes and you've got to get rid of the garment, you could be sticking $20 worth of tape on the $1,000 fire suit.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, I imagine there's quite a few rules about what you're allowed to do to the garment in terms of whoever's providing the tape and all that sort of stuff. You can't just say, we want to do this with it. And someone says, no, that's going to damage the integrity of the
Sure.
tube. There's so many hurdles and barriers there, I bet.
There is, you know, and there's a minefield of things. So what I wanted to make sure is that whatever tape I used didn't diminish the performance of the garment. Yeah. So I went out into the market and I won't name any names, but there's some very big players out there.
Yeah.
One of them was a company based in the UK called Viz Reflectives. And so I run, it's a family-owned business run by a gentleman called Nick Rowbottom, and one of his colleagues, his sister-in-law, Mandy Hitchington. And they supplied me with some tapes, and I did a blind trialing with washing, etc., and put products out there for sampling and trialing to the marketplace. And their tapes were the best by far. Okay, these are just silver tapes. Yeah. So I started a relationship as a customer with Viz Reflectives, and I know I became their biggest customer after 12 months of working with them. So we developed a good professional relationship, and then one day. So a little bit about Viz Reflectives. Viz Reflectives have been going for 20 years and are specialists in high-vis technologies, particularly in working with things like silver reflectives and bead technology. And Nick's background's actually, he's done a lot of work in cryogenics and stuff. He's the real sort of the driving force behind this product innovation. And what he did, he said, we were on a call and he said, what do you think of this? I've developed this technology. And he basically turned the lights off. I could see him on video call, and the vest, which he was showing me, by turning the lights off, you wouldn't be able to see anything by using an international standard vest. But this had Vizlight DT on it. And what it did is it glowed. Yeah, it glowed. And I said, right, that's really interesting, Nick. That's really it.
Isn't that moment where your mind just explodes into a thousand directions and goes, holy hell?
Well, no, listen, what I did very, very quickly. I went on Google, and I went on to Alibaba.com and everything else. And I actually saw, and you can do this, I saw loads of what I now know as phosphorescent technologies out there. There's loads of phosphorescent tape, and I was like thinking, and my daughter's got glow-in-the-dark stickers on her bedroom wall.
Yes, so we.
I remember if you've ever been to a rave, these luminescent sticks you could have,
Yeah.
I actually found that's a different sorts of luminescence, chemiluminescence, but anyway, I digressed. So I thought there's lots of stuff out here. And Nick was applying for this patent and everything. And I said, well, I don't understand how you could even get sort of a patent around here. So he said, no. He said, come and see me. So I went to see him. And what he showed me, and really what stands still today, is what this product does. It's about three things: performance, performance, performance. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that, it absorbs UV energy extremely quickly. And then it releases it, which is in the form of a glow, very slowly and bright. And it's very, very bright. Yeah. And so we did some very, very quick tests on it. And we could very, very quickly claim that if you charge it for 5 minutes, in sunlight, it will glow for 8 hours. The first hour being the brightest, and then it dissipates. But then, and I said, right, okay, this is interesting, very, very interesting. And I said, we need to back this up by all the scientific data and reports. Then I said to Nick, I said, I know a market that this will be extremely.
I'm sure you can think of 10 markets. It's like,
then,
wow.
Well, listen. Yeah, but I mean, for me and my background, I said to Nick, and then I said, "Get your pen out, Nick." Yeah. So I said, "I want EN 469 structural firefighting standard, EN 14116 11612 general FR standard." 61482 arc flash standard because of working in arc flash, etc. Can it be anti-static? EN 1149. There's a lot of people working in welding and hot work processes, so the standard that is EN 11611. I said there's also a Wildland standard there. It's not just for structural firefighting, 15384, and then let's get it industrial laundered, so we'll use 15796 standard. I said, can you achieve that? It wasn't even FR.
Yeah.
So he said, right, okay, let me
I was going to say,
on
because firefighting is one of those really weird markets, and I wonder why. I wonder if this is why there's not so many people trying to get into it. Because, like you say, we kind of encompass all of those things. Because if you're just doing something for a factory, maybe you haven't got to consider wildland or heat or welding, or because in our urban search and rescue and international search, we go into all of those environments. We go from the coldest to the cold to the hottest to the hot.
Yes.
It's kind of one of those really unique things that a lot of fabrics, innovations, technologies can't tick all of those boxes.
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to set the bar high. And what I didn't want to do is to go out to FRSs and say, well, you can use this for structural firefighting, can't use it for wildland. Yes. You can't work in explosive atmospheres because it's not anti-static in this for this. And so what we wanted to do is to make sure that we'd covered all of the bases. And that's very, very important. We got the product tested at minus 30 degrees C. We've had it in arc flash.
I was going to say that's an important one, because I found when we do our international search and rescue stuff, we went to Kosovo and we had some of those phosphorescent sticks, and we had some stuff that we stuck onto our helmets and our bags, and they were really crap when it got cold, to be honest.
Yeah, so ours works that way. So what was important is that we achieved all of these standards. This was for sales into Europe, etc., and approaching into the European market. But also then there's other markets that we've needed to get involved with for America, for example, and Australia, and there's other standards. Yeah. We needed to make sure that the products didn't offer any toxicological effect as well.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because when things heat up and they start to, perspire and paralyze, they do when they're so close to our face and they're on our actual body. And that's, I think, where a lot of products have missed the mark in the past, because we didn't have the technology to test the toxicology of it and how much of it was being absorbed by our skins or how much we're breathing in.
So yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely right. So for example, our most aggressive product that we have, passes Architects Class 2. Well, what does that mean? It actually means you can wear it next to the skin. Yeah, even though it goes on outside of a garment, you could actually
that opens up all the sporting market as well, doesn't it? Because you can you could make a product out of it, and that opens up all your ultra marathon runners and all that sort of jazz, and your cyclists.
Well, we've got international, global sales through major, and I know you've seen, because I've sent you some.
We'll put the links to the website. People will be able to find it.
Suppliers on the planet, yes.
100%.
That are wearing our technology and are sold out. I mean, just looking at the reviews on that, the sportswear stuff is absolutely amazing, because what major sportswear brands want to do is, is protect people. Yes, you can have day glow colors, etc., and that's for running during the day, etc. But at night time, what interestingly our technology does, it doesn't just glow. Yeah. What we've done, and it's constant developing it, what we've managed to do is we've managed to also put reflectance in there. Nice. So it will not only glow, it reflects.
Because I think that's one of the things that stops all of these super cool, go fast cyclists wearing some of the older less technological products is because they do look a bit crap. But with the stuff like this, because nothing more frustrating than when you see somebody coming at 35 miles an hour getting angry at you because you couldn't bloody see them because they're wearing all of their, Gucci kit, but you can't bloody see them.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, listen, our customers are ostensibly the manufacturers. Yes, our direct customers are, a sporting brand manufacturer. It's interesting. You talked about horse riding. Yes, we've actually we've got horse riding clothing as well. It's for horse riding. Some really nice stuff that we've managed to do.
I'm going to get some for my wife.
Absolutely, and we've got it. It goes on to dog coats. That's an interesting one.
That is a great shout, mate. Oh my God. Yeah. When we're doing our urban search and rescue stuff, you can't see it, and they end up having to clip little torches onto the back of the dogs because we can't see them when we're doing missing persons and stuff like that. The dog's one of your most important assets.
You've said it. You've absolutely got it. So, I mean, the idea, I actually, it's a funny story, this, but I went to my auntie's house, and she was babysitting it was a Maltese terrier. Don't know much about dogs, etc.
And
she was babysitting this Maltese terrier because some footballer had just bought it. So she was babysitting that, and I went in the house, and lo and behold, after I went in the house, we couldn't find it. And I know how much these things cost as well. I mean, I was worried about the dog, but I was also seeing me having to foot a huge bill here. We did find the dog anyway, and I just thought, well, listen, this has got to have applications there. So I approached a major.
Have they got these on dog collars?
Yeah. So.
Oh, mate, I need to get them for 3 of my dogs because we've got a German Shepherd and 2 Spaniels, right? And I know the Spaniels are like mud demons. That's why they're so good for EUSAR and stuff, because they go bury themselves in bushes. And by the time you've realised it's getting dark outside, it's too late to put anything on them because you're already out walking. But if they had that, mate, I would love to get some of them.
Absolutely, and I'll provide you with some of those, and you can do a wearer trial for us with your dogs. Beautiful. But so it's gone into like dog leads and dog coats and stuff. But then coming on to the professional applications, you just absolutely nailed it when you're talking about you're doing USAR, and it's important you know where the dog is, because they're going to get to the person that needs to be rescued before you, and you could be in all sorts of atmospheres, or it could be pitch black, etc. And you've got also police as well, when you've got dog handlers and stuff, and the dog's running and actually latches onto somebody, it's kind of important for the police officer to know where the dog is as quick as possible to stop injury and harm to the dog or the person that are also attached to. So it's got applications with there.
Have you done any work with international search and rescue?
So I personally, I haven't, but what would have done is our customer that manufactures these products would be supplying and dealing with.
It would be a great connection. I'm happy to hook you up after, because it's a small group of people, but it's, we went to Turkey recently and stuff like that. I mean, the dog handlers, in as an example, I think it's a team of 8 or 9 handlers. They would be a great test market for that individual, for that company. And they get, without being too businessy, they get wonderful exposure. It's for a great cause. They've gone to God knows how many natural disasters over the last 20 years. And they really would actually, not like me with the greatest respect, walking my dogs in the woods. They would really test it. Yeah,
that would be really, really good. I mean, we do also supply through one of our manufacturers. They have a disaster management operation over there. And I actually went and did a presentation several years ago. So they do use it they have a lot of earthquakes and things and a lot of problems. Geographical issues, etc. that they have out there. So so we supply that in the market. I think if you go to Turkey as well, if you pretty much go into any brigade over there, I think we have the last stat was about 84% of the FRSs over there wearing Viz DT. So it's a very important product, and we're selling it globally. We've now supplying in a market. We supply all over the world, from Australia right across Asia, the Middle East, Europe, UK. Lots of FRSs in the UK. Africa.
Well, I don't think darkness is a thing that's unique to the UK, is it? Bless them. So that's again another fantastic aspect of this product and this innovation is it protects people all over the world.
Well, you raised an important point there. So we've got 150,000 firefighters or so. Yeah, and that's growing. I mean, we got 6 brigades in the last month.
Whoa.
FRS that came on board. And that was really good. But it's not just for nighttime visibility. You know, if you think about, you know, and I've even sent you some pictures.
Yes. Yeah.
If you go into a building, for example, chances are if there's a fire, that there's some smoke in there. Chances are that the electrics aren't working and the lights aren't on. So what we've actually seen, and this is firefighters taking pictures while they're in there, and that they can see that they can locate their colleagues in there, and that's during the day. And what you'll see is our technology is glowing, and you can actually really see them. You know, and in a situation where every single second counts, how important is that? When we look at visibility, and it's an important few factors to understand here, and we're looking at, you know, it's a firefighters podcast, and I'll try and focus very much in there. We talked earlier about, you know, firefighters are not always at structural fires. They're doing lots of different things. They're at road traffic accidents, and they're dealing with that. They're doing wildland firefighting, etc. But in terms of visibility, it's important that they are seen so they're not struck by cars. We believe our technology makes them easier to detect in those seconds that you've got to be able to do that. But the other areas is the identification and location of colleagues. I mean, another video I sent you, Pete, I don't know whether you had managed chance to see it, but one of our, the people I like speaking to is the actual end user, the firefighter that's wearing the kit. And I was at a show a few months ago, and I was showing the latest technology, which is ProFire, which is a new development that we've had. I showed this to somebody who came and on the stand, and then we actually take them in the tent and they could see it, and they said it's just amazing. So I said, I'm really glad you like that. They said, we actually wear your the FRA version, which is the 10mm strips that we've got. So I said, do you mind if I just
yes, you recording?
ask for your reaction on the phone? He said, no problem at all. I said, well, what do you think about it? So he says, well, what your technology does for me is when I go into a building, rather than having to put my hand on my colleague, I can just see them and it frees up my hand. That's what your technology does for me.
100%. So when I was watching so many of them videos and you're glancing around, and if somebody's torch is working or if it's running out of battery, it takes away all of those thought processes, especially if we've got like people throw their mind straight into breathing apparatus where, oh, well, what people have got DSU, a distress signal unit's going to be going off and they're going to have their torch on their helmet. A, maybe not. B, you've got the sound, which, okay, you might know you're in the right room or not. Helmet torches on or off if they remembered to do it. And even if it's not facing in the right direction or they're face down on the floor, which they most likely will be if they're hurt, you're not going to know where they are. And they'll go, oh, well, we've got the thermal imaging camera. Yeah, great. If you can see through it and if you've, if it's working and if it's not too misted up and X, Y, Z, and the rest of the bloody room is hot as well, when you walk straight into it, you are going to see them. It's going to be like the worst hide and seek in the dark ever. They're glowing over there in the corner on the floor.
Sure. I mean, you absolutely identified the risk there. So you've got to identify the location of colleagues. We think that's important. I read stories about, and I think we talked about this previously, Pete. I mean, I don't want to talk specifics, but I mean, there's instances where firefighters have not been able to be located in time.
100%.
And, I'm not saying that this technology is a panacea for every single situation, but what I am saying is that it does increase the chances of them being seen. It increases the chance of them being seen. It increases the possibility of them being rescued quicker. I mean, those are stats that's
what we were saying the other day. For some people, they go, oh, yeah, but what sort of a gain is that? Is it 10%? Is it 30%? Even if it's 1%, which is not, it's far more than that, in my personal opinion. It's a game changer. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those many marginal gains that's going to collectively add to our ability to identify and rescue members of our team.
I mean, you're already, the firefighter in some ways is at a disadvantage to the rest of the industries because you need such fabrics that have got really high protection, FR flame protection, Those typically aren't fluorescent, I do know that at RTAs, etc., that you do have a high vis vest, etc. But you're going into a fire. I mean, a lot of firefighters, they're wearing the yellow sort of gold sort of products, or the black and navies and things, yeah. But they're not bright fluorescents. So what we do is all they're wearing really is a tape on there, which is yellow, silver, yellow, which is around the arms and around the legs. But this definitely offers a different level of protection to that, a different level of conspicuity.
You know, the additional level for me, though, because when I saw some of the industrial examples of it as well, but then when I saw videos of firefighters, we're going into back closets, you're trying to find fuse boxes, you're going into dark houses with all the electrics isolated, you're trying to pull something out your pocket, have a look, just see where you're going. I was astonished by the amount of light that's actually emitted by it. So I think, and I'm going to get all the terminology wrong, but the difference between glowing and emitting, I don't know if that's the right terminology to be using, but this genuinely, like you can hold a pad in front of you and read it. It's not just glowing on you, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
It's almost like we've had this conversation before, Pete, because you're saying all the things that I'm going to discuss, and it's really, really important. You really do understand the technology. So the other area that's important, so we've talked about, fatalities when people get hit by vehicles, firefighters get hit by vehicles. We've talked about the importance of seeing the colleagues. The other thing is there's also to be located and recognised by others. So we did trials in the UK. We did trials. There was one that I can remember that we did over in Central America as well. And it was important that we understood about the design, because they were using these 10mm strips that go on the garments. And this one particular product was they put some on over a shoulder and some around the bottom of the ankles. And what we actually found by that, when it actually went out into industry, is that they were identifying it didn't look like a human form. So if you look at biomotion studies, etc., they talk about ways to strategically put strips, etc., so it looks like a human form. So
because our eyes don't pick up the entire thing, does it? We actually just glance at something and look for a few visual indicators. There was a great study. Did you ever read the book Bounce by Matthew Syed?
No.
It's a great book, and because they were trying to measure reaction speeds, and they got like the fastest ping pong player in the world to try and have a go at tennis and see how they could react. But it wasn't actually a reaction speed that they were looking for. What they realized when they did the retinal scanning and all the, biomechanical filming and all that sort of jazz, what the person was doing was just looking at 2 or 3 indicator points on the person's body. They weren't even looking at the ball. They weren't even looking at the racket. Because we don't see that. We just see patterns, don't we?
Absolutely. And there's loads of studies out there. So what you'll see is, and again, I've sent you a lot more videos that you can see, is that what manufacturers have been doing by engaging with FRSs, they've been trialing and sampling, etc. And you can see the placement now is pretty much all over the garment. I mean, it does make me laugh in some ways that I've seen, have you seen the TikTok videos? Yeah. So a lot of the end users, firefighters, are actually videoing themselves when they're in dark situations or smoke-filled situations, etc., and they literally light up. And looks, you can tell because it's all over the garment, etc. You can tell in an instant that it's some people call it stickman configuration, like stickman. It's across the arms and down the chest and waist and that sort of thing, and you can tell very, very, very quickly. That's really important when you're talking about potentially interacting. If you're going to save somebody's life, they're in a burning building, etc. It's for that child, it's for that man, woman, etc., to instantly be able to see, oh, look, that's somebody over there, and I'm over here. Yes. And it's not just about you seeing them in an instance. It's about them and seeing what they recognize. Yeah.
I don't know what brands it was that chose to use it as well, though, but some of them have actually done the lettering on the back, which I think then really helps when you're glancing across, a pitch black roadway. You can see who actually belongs to fire, and I'm hopeful like police and paramedics will adopt it at some point.
So we supply this to police and paramedics as well. I think you've seen some stuff on that. That's really important. I mean, there's a good, interesting study about paramedic incidents over in Canada, which talks about most of the incidents that they had and collisions, etc., were when a paramedic was out of external lighting. They've actually study that talks about that. So we're doing some brilliant work over there in Canada, etc. with these.
Well, because their PP, I think, is far worse. Not because they're not as good as us, but I think maybe I don't know the way the markets or the way that the people that produce these garments look at it is they consider fire in like an extreme environment. So our PPE tends to be much more rugged and rigid, and we wear it for everything. Even if we're just going into somebody's home, we're in our tunics and our jackets. But a paramedic, a lot of the time, they're just in their greens or their blues or whatever. And it's just, with all due respect, it's, t-shirts and, shirts and trousers, isn't it? And it's a difficult physical discipline, personal discipline, sorry, for them to consciously say, I need to change out of this now because I'm entering a hazardous environment.
Correct. Yeah, but I mean, they do wear high visibility, but the shortfalls which we talked about in high visibility in the standards, it doesn't offer them that third layer of protection our product does. But going back into the visual recognition and firefighters, the other benefit this technology brings is not just about identifying each other, but and again, you've seen some videos on this, it literally lights up the room. Yeah. So when we're talking about slips and trips and all these sorts of things, you've got a better chance of seeing things around you because it's a positive light source that's lighting up the room. We have end users that have told us you can literally read, depending on where the strips are on the garment, you can read off it, the glow in front of you. We've got projects on the go with glove manufacturers and firefighting footwear manufacturers as well. So it can literally light up the way forward and they can see the hands more easily. And that's all what we believe will be. Are
some of those things a cost aspect? Because for me, I'm like, what stops us just putting it all over the product and on the helmets and everything? I imagine that's just a cost factor, is it?
Well, listen, cost is always an issue, but the way I was at the NFCC conference last week, and they had a great things at West Midlands Fire, and I took a picture of it, and it was actually it showed the evolution of fire clothing, and I've heard about you talk about it on other podcasts as well. But I mean, literally in the 70s and 60s and stuff, from wool barathea jackets and PPE. Where was the money for all the high technical FR fabrics there? So money is an issue, but then again, it's always got to be in comparison with what the perceived benefit of protection is and better.
That's the sad thing about it, isn't it? I always think these innovations move forward one death at a time.
Yeah. We can only guess. I mean, I started off talking about 61 firefighters were killed by being hit by vehicles between 2000 and 2013 in the US. I mean, could this technology saved one of them? We don't know. But what we can say is that if visibility is an issue, this report says it is, an identification. If you're increasing visibility, which we argue this technology does, Viz-like DT, then it increases safety. I mean, that's one of the things we can definitely
They're
talk
the unfortunate questions that have to get asked in a debrief, isn't it? Because when somebody does go, was visibility an issue? Let's factor that. And so people go, yes, no. And the next question usually is, well, were they wearing the high vis? And as soon as somebody says yes, they'll go, right, well, it must have been a human factor then, or it must have been something else. It's a harder push to go into, but is the thing we asked them to wear good enough?
Sure. But, these contracts, as you know more than me, they last for a long, long time. I know contracts that are out there for 10 years.
I know. It's not good, is it?
This technology was not available 5 years ago. Yeah. So I know, and there's firefighting kit that's out there that's going to last for several more years. Yes, this technology is still not going to be able to be put onto those plants. So it's all part of evolution. Yeah.
Well, even that's not an absolute, because if people stamp their feet enough and they see the benefits that other services are getting, it is just a scale at the end of the day. If the desire and the need gets high enough and we demonstrate the safety aspects of it clearly enough, then sometimes it is a justification for those people to turn around mid-contract and say, I'm sorry, it has to be this. And that's when, if you're able to push that through in legislation or in tenders or in, procedural requirements, then that's the big lever that gets shifted, isn't it?
The biggest thing for us, Pete, is exactly what we're doing today. Yeah, it's making firefighters and the fire industry aware that this technology exists, and we do this, very, very good at marketing and getting the messages out there, but it's a global marketplace. We're a very small, technologically driven business. What we've done is we've engaged with a global distribution network with a company called Coates. I don't know whether you're familiar with them.
Yes, they're on the beginning of a few of your videos, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they make most of the world's threads. Yeah, it's a big organization, but they are a global presence. And what they're able to do is they're able to access markets locally where we can't.
Yeah.
Because they've got people in Japan, or they've got people in Guatemala, or they've got people in Brazil or Peru, or etc., who can locally support them, stock them, etc. So it really is about, now we've got a distribution network in place. It's about making firefighters aware that this technology is available. Every single contract we have secured, whether it be a firefighter or a sportswear manufacturer, has continued to purchase the product. Yeah. Not a spot buy and then move on. What we're doing is we've really developed a standard. And I think what's really important to understand, if we talk about the technology a little bit more,
yes, please,
is about the performance. Yeah, this is what makes it, hugely different from the glow-in-the-dark stickers that my daughter has on a bedroom wall. So what it really is, to try and understand how the technology works, is about inside an atom. I'll try not to get too scientific.
Try and go as technical as you can, because I like, when I was watching some of this, and I think on one of the videos that you provided me with, like so many other things, nature is one of our best teachers, isn't it? And then when I started seeing some of the examples, when you look at jellyfish and when you look at other animals, that scientific side of it, we'll have unknowingly already seen a lot of this on on Blue Planet, but realizing that we can start to understand now through the innovations of companies such as yourself and the original designers of this sort of stuff. How far down that rabbit hole can you take me? I'll try and stay with you.
Oh, well, no, I mean, when we talk about things like bioluminescence and photoluminescence and all of these things, you can see how, if you talk about Darwin's theory of evolution, etc., how do things survive and last? Yeah, well, in lots of instances, and you can see it, whether it be a firefly, yes, or you could see with there's glow in the dark frogs, actually, and they actually use this technology to either attract or repel. Yeah. Because it's noticeable. That's what it is. And you would think that if you look down the lineage, the very fact that they're surviving today is because they've managed to attract a partner, yes, and therefore their species can then move forward in terms of procreation, or they've actually repelled being eaten, or attacked by something. So you can see lots of instances all the way through the animal kingdom, for example. But what we've done, actually, the products that we have is actually, it's rare earth. Yes, it's taken out of the earth, and it's has these properties in itself. Yeah, but we use a really pure version of it. And I think what's very, very important to understand is why it's different, and that really is about its performance. Yeah. So, for example, we have this product, and it's a glow-in-the-dark product, and we had a look at, right, okay, so what do we think it's really good, and we tested other things on the marketplace. Why is ours better? Yeah. And let's prove that ours is better. Yes. And we knew ours was better because that's really in the chemistry, and that really is down to our patent. Yeah, so that's really, really exciting news, because when I first saw Nick about how can we get a patent, well, we can get a patent because it is different. So what we wanted to do, though, is actually look at its performance criteria And there was a DIN standard out there, 67510, that just talked about phosphorescence glow performance, right? So we just ran, okay, right. And then the only actual standard we could find was outside of that was for safety signs.
Oh yeah.
17398, right? So, and I'll explain to you why our product's different. But safety signs I understood, and you see, if you're in a cinema, Pete, you will see the exit or clearly lit up there, and that uses a form of phosphorescence, yeah, or fire signs, you know, for exits, etc. in buildings when all the lights have gone off, can use phosphorescence, yeah. And so we looked at their standard, right? And we looked at the highest performing category, which is category D within that standard. And our glow performance was twice the highest performance within that. Now, this is really exciting because you need to understand what we've done that's different. And what we've done that is different. If you think about a safety sign, for example, right? A safety sign is a rigid object. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could put a form of phosphorescence, even though it won't be ours. You could put a form of phosphorescence on there, and you could put it on an inch thick, yeah, because it doesn't need to do anything, yeah. Our product's different because it needs to go on garments.
It needs to be pliable.
So you've got to, it's got to achieve all of the standards that I went through, for example, for a firefighter, and there's more, yeah. Plus, you've got to be able to either sew it or you've got to be able to heat apply it on onto that product. And guess what? Then you've got to be able to go through all of the FR, and then you've got to then be able to wash it. So because it moves as it's being washed, etc., to make sure all of the pigments we use and the beading systems, etc., don't fall off the product. Yeah. So this is what the difference is. It's hugely impressive in terms of performance, in terms of brightness and glow, but it's commercial. What I mean by commercial, it means it works out in industry.
Yeah.
And that is something that's very, very unique in what we do. And to be able to engineer that product, to be able to do all of those things is extremely expensive, extremely difficult to do. And
it's that initial colossal investment of the research and the R&D side of it, isn't it? Before you've actually got, you know, a viable product that you can actually go out there and lose. Because I'm looking at it now, and it really is an important distinction between that phosphorescence versus fluorescence, isn't it? Because it effectively, by the looks of it, it captures a high energy photon, and then it's the difference between it's sits in like a triple barrier from what I'm trying to read from it, and then it holds that electron until it's released by a random spike of almost like thermal vibration energy. It sits behind that barrier versus something that immediately bounces it straight off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in layman's terms, I mean, if you could think of an atom, yeah, and then it's got electrons going around it. These electrons inside the pigments that we use, what they do is they get excited by energy, yeah? And that energy they get excited about is in the form of UV energy, yeah? In their excitation mode, yes, they absorb. Yes, they go into absorb. So they're absorbing and absorbing and absorbing. And it's kind of like, it's almost like an intelligent light system when you see it work, because you can't see this technology working. It's not glowing when there's light there, because do you know what? It's actually engineered so that it's in the absorb phase. But what happens is when they stop being excited, that means there's no UV on them. Yes, that means for me and you, when you go into a dark area, they then release it. Yeah, they release it. And that released energy is in the form of a visible glow. And that glow,
I find that fascinating.
That glow operates at a nano wavelength of 555. Yeah, visual wavelength. And what does that mean to me and you? It is the most attractive color to the human eye that it's possible to get.
Wow. So I'm imagining this stuff in the science of it does exist in different colors, but we just don't pick up on them because it's not hard for people to. I mean, if I try and bring this down to a really, really peat level, it's like
Yeah.
we're always emitting heat, but you don't see it until you use a certain technology that allows you to see that thermal radiation. And then you can see it gather more, and then you can see it slowly lose it, and you can see it transfer it, and all of that sort of stuff. But when I think about this, like you say, you can't inherently see it or feel it until
Yeah.
you come into that environment.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about also there is about color. We don't want to change the color
No.
for a firefighter, for example, because of exactly as I've explained to you, it emits the brightest color to the human eye for detection. But we're dealing in lots of different marketplaces, leisure wear, sportswear, etc. I mean, we talk about horse riding again. Yeah, we've just done issued a major project, and what we've done is we've actually in our own labs we've developed color. Yes. So
I think that's a great shout because then you can only identify that person. You can identify that's a horse, or there's a person riding a horse because they're in that color.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's done more for aesthetics more than anything else because I have to tell you is if you change the color, you change the performance, so it's not as bright to the human eye. But if you put it on a very expensive, nice ladies' horse jacket, for example, where they've just some of the orders have gone, yes, it doesn't want to stand out as a yellow stripe on the products, and you can't even tell it's in there unless you walk into a darkened area, etc. And then it glows. Absolutely, it glows.
Yeah, horsey people are very much against anything that looks like an emergency services wearer would wear it. I think it is with the greatest respect, and I put myself in the market, it can be quite an elitist place to live.
Yeah, I understand that, and we're developing products for different marketplaces, etc. But at the end of the day, and this is what we needed to do. Now understanding how the technology works and it passed all these standards, yeah. Really to understand firefighting and really how that interacted with our technology. And so if you look at it, Pete, what's very, very important, we can say, okay, you're outside in the sunlight, etc. 5 minutes, it'll glow for 8 hours. I actually have got stats that prove you can still see it after 42 hours, yeah?
But I think I've seen the time-lapse videos of that as well.
Yeah.
And also how far away you can see it. One of the videos, how far does that person go?
About 200 meters, but you can see it from further. It's very, very
200
important.
meters. That's massive.
Well, particularly if you don't know where they are and you can't put a torch on them, but you can see them in the distance, that certainly helps.
Yeah.
But what we wanted to do, though, when we come back to against the performance, Pete, this technology is, if you look at the Home Office stats, and I was looking at them for 2022, but they are pretty similar throughout the years. If you look at the response times for fires, for example, they talk about, they break it down in three sorts of areas where call handling time, which they detailed at 1 minute 27 seconds on average. Then the crew turnout time, that's the bit we're interested in, 1 minute 34 seconds, and then drive time 5 minutes 55. These are just averages, etc. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at the worst case scenario for a firefighter and our technology, and the worst case scenario in terms of charging, etc. Then we assumed that the garments were not hung up in the station, so they had no sort of station lighting, etc., to be able to charge them. We assumed they're in a dark locker, and it's still the case for some fabrics that firefighters use. They're susceptible to UV degradation, so they don't like to be out in the light more than they have to. So that's fair enough. So we assumed that the firefighter would have to get their fire kit out of a dark locker, so there's no charge on the product. Then we didn't want to look at 1 minute 34. We said, look, and I've seen some of the, and you can see them online. How quickly can you get your PPP, etc., and they have races and stuff. So what we did is we looked at 1 minute, and then we looked at very, very low lighting. So just to give you sort of background, we do all of our testing on 1,000 lux. So what does that actually mean? Well, it's very, very low light charge. For example,
I can
today
see that on your website. Dusk is 1,000 lux, isn't it? And then normal office lights are like 500.
Yeah, correct. But if you look at sunlight today, for example, there's 150,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Look, so what we've done is we test our products, and then what we do is we assume then the firefighter, they do get the PPE on in the station lighting because they can't do it in the dark. But then we assume that there's no more light in the cab. There's no more light even when they get to the incident, even though there's usually lots of light. Yeah. Fire creates light. You've got street lighting. You've got the lights from the cabs, the trucks, etc., etc. But let's assume there's none. We can prove that you can actually still see this technology glowing after 3 hours. Yeah. Wow. So that's really, really important that just in a minute charge, you can still see it.
So it doesn't have to be sunlight?
No, definitely not. Office lighting.
That is a really important thing that I'm really glad we didn't miss, because this actually gets
lighting. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a game changer.
So we're looking at, and so what we do is we replicate this, and this is done independently. Yeah. We replicate and simulate station types of charge, station lighting, and what that does to the technology, and that's produced an independent, verifiable information reports. It's important if we're talking to FRSs that we can say and stipulate this. And the reality is that the most important part of that glow as well, certainly within the first hour, and that's when it's the brightest. So that should be able to get them into a situation where they're actually, if they've got to go into a building, etc., it's working. And this is worst case scenario. You know, many of the other scenarios work absolutely fine. If it is daylight, it doesn't need to be sunlight. It charges just as quick if it's a cloudy day. Yeah.
Wow.
But office lighting.
Actually, that makes sense now when I think about the idea of things working inside cinemas or inside offices, because they're never exposed really to daylight, yet they will continue to glow, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And you get it on strip lighting for things like aeroplanes. Yeah. Got it on ships, markers which can point you the right way. If the lights have failed and it's dark, the right way to the life rafts and all that kind of stuff. So, but as I've explained, that technology is great, but the key has really been about, and this is where our USP is about applying it into a commercial way, so it can be in structural firefighting, for example, or sportswear, or whichever markets that we operate in. So that's
for those kits that haven't already got it, are they able to? Is there any straps or there's Velcro all over our kits and stuff like that? Are there products that they can retrofit? Obviously not sewing or putting anything onto their products, but for those people that are locked into 7-year-long contracts, do you have small products that people can put onto existing products?
I mean, it's an exercise. If it was an FRS came to us and said that's something that they want to look at, we'd have a look at that about retrofitting. But that's an involved process. There's many layers.
Lots of decision makers involved in it, I imagine.
Yeah. But I mean, just in terms of the mechanics and engineering of it, yeah. Putting it on not in a flat state. The garment wouldn't be in a flat state. It would be, you've got arms and legs and all that sort of stuff. We've I thought you were talking about when you separate kits. Well, we do supply it for, it's in retail stores. In Canada, for example, we've done a big project there that we're still working on, but we're doing a project there that you can buy it in a retail store, and you can either, because we do it, you can stick it on helmets, for example. Yeah,
you can buy the tapes. I'm looking on the website now, and you can literally buy the tapes and the films separately.
Correct. Yeah, so you could iron it on yourself, etc. But when you're dealing with firefighting kit, you'd really need the manufacturer involved and understand how that could be, and how that could work. But when you think about the different areas as well, that the products goes in. It's not really just about nighttime, and we keep saying that. We looked at that scenario, which was worst case scenario in terms of charging for firefighters. But, we supply this to all the UK postal workers. Yeah. They did extensive trials. Now, you'd think, what? So, are they posting at night time? Well, do you know what? In winter, it gets dark at 3 in the UK as well.
Yeah.
And if you think about, French railway workers, etc., they buy the products and they did extensive trialing. It's just like, if you think about, let's just forget about nighttime for a minute. You've got airport baggage handlers. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, these big junkers that I get on that fly over to the Far East, etc., on a bright sunny day, well, guess what? There's very shaded underneath it, yeah, and there's moving trucks and there's all sorts of baggage and stuff moving around, and it's darker in there, casts a shadow, yeah. Not just that, if it's bright outside, yeah, how the eye is operating, it's bright, so the eyes, your pupils dilate because you don't want to let so much light in because it's blinding you, and then there's a lag time when you get into shade as well, and then it needs time to open up.
That's why in the military and stuff they use a lot of red light, don't they? So that their eye can adapt quicker.
Absolutely. And if you think about things like mining, people working underground things, if you think about even things like forestry workers, we sell it on major forestry contracts, right? Because they're working in dark shaded areas during the day and they've got chainsaws, yeah, they're in under trees and all sorts of things. People working at height, which firefighters do as well. Yeah, where is the firefighter? Where is the electrician, etc.? Can you see them? Is there, can you get to them quickly if they had a heart attack? Is there any issue, etc.? It's about keeping them visible. So what we argue is that if anybody's in an environment where it requires them legally or morally to be in high visibility, so you want to put your staff in high vis, even if you're working in a low risk environment, etc. What we're saying is that if you accepted that high vis increases the possibility of accidents, if you add this third layer of technology, it offers visibility in low light. Low light conditions, we would argue, are more treacherous because of the nature.
Yes.
If you can't see either where you're going or you can't see where somebody else is, by adding this third layer of visibility, Viz like DT, it has to increase safety of an individual.
Mate, I find they are the most dangerous times. We always cover this in like incident command training, because when we put people at incidents at different times of day, they try to follow the same script as they would do, expecting they're going to turn up to an incident at 10 a.m. in the morning or something like that. And one of the last considerations is always requesting resources for lighting. And then lo and behold, 30 minutes later, during the decision-making exercise that we're carrying out with them, you'll say, right, it's pitch black now. Well, they're using a simulator and they can't see anything. And then they finally remember to make the request, and they've still got to wait another 10, 15, 20 minutes for the thing to turn up. And then, they haven't got enough light on the incident ground. They don't know where the firefighters are. And it adds and it just rushes up on you, especially in the UK. It can take, 30 minutes or something. All of a sudden it's pitch black.
Absolutely. And the reality is, Pete, the technology now we've been supplying into the market, we've been supplying now for 5 years. And we're developing continuously, and it's getting into more and more markets. And there's a reason why workers are choosing this product. There's a reason why, because the difficult conversations we had at the beginning, and they're always hard with new innovation. Yeah, I'm in front of fire chiefs in Eastern Europe, etc., and I can remember we just developed this technology, yes, and we've got. And it's passed all the certification, fantastic. It's passed all the certification. You can wash it. You can be seen in the dark. And, I did a presentation over there. I can remember this one. And I was in front of the fire chief, who went, great, that's amazing. He said, who else is using it? So I said, well, no,
that's annoying.
We're just coming out to the market. Yeah. And then there's a reticence that even though the market's about innovation and everything else, but to be the first, to see. They don't know what they don't know. Could there be another?
No, those early adopters, you have to find those rare ones, don't you?
Yeah. So when you've done that, I mean, listen,
Now
then
the
you're on.
pendulum starts to swing. The beauty I love about the product is there's almost no explanation required. It's almost it crosses all the language barriers. When you see some of the wonderful visuals and the videos that you've sent me, and we'll share these with everybody as well, it's such a obvious thing. And then you're like, it doesn't matter if you don't even understand firefighting or you don't understand personal safety or the safer person concept. It literally is. It doesn't require language. It's amazing.
Well, listen, it does sell itself. It's a visual product, and I love nothing better than in terms of reaction. Yeah, in actually going into a completely blacked out room, yes, with a firefighter, with two sets of kit, one which is what they've got today, and one which could have our technology on it. Yeah, and the reaction. The only reason you can stay in that room and have dialogue is because you can see each other's faces, because the garment that one of us is wearing is lit up the room, and it literally lights up the face, and you can see the reaction. It's fantastic, and that's why I'm so passionate about this product. It's about getting the knowledge out there. I still have conversations, Pete. You'd think, and I've heard you talk to fabric suppliers, etc., and they've got the best fabrics, and why isn't everybody buying this fabric, etc., because it does this, that, and the other. Yeah. We've got the same issues here. I have conversations with procurement people, not necessarily in the fire market, etc., that just say, well, listen, it adds cost to the garment. And I say, well, yes, you don't get it for free. That's true. And he said, and there's no international standard that says I have to have it.
Yeah, that's real. They're the conversations that happen behind closed doors when people espouse virtual value. They espouse those values when they're out in the public facing and saying, there's no cost for firefighter safety or police officer safety or that sort of stuff. And then the ugly side of it that I'm sure you see far too much, and I'm sure you interact with lots of fantastic people, but with all the odd ones that actually they are the bean counters, and we do respect them and we do need them because we are spending the public's money, so we do need to make sure it goes in the right place. But this is really a no-brainer.
Well, listen, what I have to say is that if we talk about the UK, I think pretty much every contract that's come up, including the Ministry of Defence, we supply all of their firefighters, etc. So I think virtually everything that's come up in the UK since this technology has been available, all of the contracts we've secured, all of them, pretty much.
Still a big land grab to go, though. And the exciting thing is, I don't think anybody's anywhere near doing anything like what you guys are doing. So I think it's all up for the grabs.
Well, listen, we had the pain with the innovation. At the beginning, it's hard work.
It's the story of that 20-year overnight success.
It was financially, yeah. I mean, at the very, very beginning as well, it's like how much longer can you can keep going. I mean, the amount of money that's been put in and time and resource to make it work, and we've had some meetings where we've sat down and said, right, this is what
you don't get this next contract, it's game over.
And it was all about that, And now we've got brigades in Australia that can talk to, brigades in Asia, can talk to brigades in Africa, Central America, Europe, and about their own experiences having this technology. And what we've done is, is what's really, really important, and this is where the future takes us. Yeah, we'll get people, I imagine, trying to copy our technology. We do patents, etc. But you know how these things work. We're in constant.
Surprised nobody's tried to buy you out yet.
Well, that's a completely different story. Yeah,
exactly. We won't talk about that one, but I'll bet there's been a few.
Well, maybe after this podcast, Pete, who knows? There's constant development and innovation. We've got labs and we've got washing machines and we've got FR machines that to test for FR performance and all sorts of things in the labs. And what the team do there as well is they develop this technology and are constantly developing it. And so you've seen on some of the videos there, and hopefully show them with some. We'll
share them all on the platforms, and we'll make it available through a link in the notes.
That we've actually put 3 technologies and developed into one tape. So that's the firefighter. one you've seen where in the daylight it looks no different. You don't see any of these 10mm strips, etc. They just look like they're wearing what they'd normally wear, which is yellow, silver, yellow reflective tape. But what we've done is we've combined the yellow element, which is the fluorescence, which is the daytime visibility, the reflectivity we've put in the middle there, and that all conforms to all international standards for standard tape. But what we've done is we've put special technology behind it, which is Viz DT, our next generation of technology, which
is that
glows.
the Viz DT FRA one that I'm looking at?
The FRA one is 10mm. DT Pro, if you look at DT Pro.
Yes, sorry, I can see that one now. We'll put this in the links for everyone because I know see what I'm looking at.
We've already, I think we've just come out with that the tail end of last year. We've already had 4 or 5 brigades confirm that's what they're moving forward with.
Wow.
And so this is made. Nick, clever that he is. I mean, he's had to make and modify the machinery to make the technology because it's just got, it's just not even anywhere in the world the machinery to make this technology. So what we've done is everything is for the Pro Fire range is made in the UK.
Is he really?
Yeah. Made in the UK.
Oh wow, that is something you should scream about more.
We are so proud of the fact that we do that, and and we can sell this out globally. So you come and see us, Pete. Have a look at it going down the line.
I'd love to come and meet you and come and see you guys and girls. And this is what I love most about it. I always say to people, like, let me come and visit. You haven't got to pay me to come and visit or any of that rubbish. Just I would love to actually have first-hand experience with seeing and touching and wearing this stuff because they're the champions. And I'll go on and talk about this now on probably every podcast I speak to about PPE. And that's the beauty of it. If you can really embed that knowledge within the boots on the ground, they are your champions. They're the ones who'll go out and tell you how good it is.
So what we're doing, some other funky stuff just to let you know about, particularly for fire, which is I really do think it's sexy because safety is sexy. For me, I think if it means saving lives and accident,
that's the difference with this stuff. It actually does look really cool as well. Most safety doesn't, but this stuff looks really cool. You would, because I think maybe it triggers that raver within us all that, takes us back to our childhood, and you look bloody cool in it.
Listen, as you've seen on all the TikToks and everything, and they absolutely love it. But
love it,
the reality is it's making them more visible, and that's really important. So what we've done is we've commissioned some research, which we're going through at the moment. So we've got different varieties of the technology that we're working on. Some that you've seen, some that we have developed, and some that we are developing. And what we're doing is we're testing it in different sorts of dark environment, because dark is not just dark or light, but also what we're testing, interestingly, is also in different smoke environment.
Because how light travels through smoke is a very different factor to consider as well. But I love that you're actually taking the time and the R&D investment to do that, because you could quite easily rest on your laurels and go, we've got a viable product, it works, but that clearly doesn't align with yours and entrepreneurial side.
So what we do is we test and we make all this funky stuff. But what we do, and what's really important for anybody specifying in any fire authority across the world, is everything is backed up by independent, empirical, verifiable reporting and research. So what we do is if we claim something, we get those reports from, there's not many labs that can actually do this work as well, that deal with our particular type of phosphorescence, but so we get that backed up by independent reports that do say, in these conditions, this is what the glow performance means, and this is what it's the benefit can be, because it's very important for us to not just say these things, but to prove them.
Back it up.
Got to do that. So we talked about that call handling time, crew turnout time, and drive time, and all those funky things regarding average response times and things. I said, in terms of the performance, that has to be backed up in that minute performance of what that actually means, so that we can put it across to a firefighter and tell them what that means in terms of their day-to-day activity. What we like about this technology is it's independent. It works independently. So there are products out there, and you've probably seen them, like LED light systems, which
Yeah.
work off batteries and wires and
Yeah,
all.
that's what I mean. Some of the stuff we've had clipped onto our helmets or strapped onto our bags with the international search and rescue stuff, it just fades over time, and then it's a ball ache to get it off and change it, and you haven't got a spare, and you have to carry spares. And
I think the difficulty is actually how it works in action. Yeah, it's
yeah,
okay, And again, what happens if the battery fails? What if if you forgot to charge your battery?
it requires a constant interaction from the person to remember stuff, and then we introduce that human error, doesn't it? And it always
and
fails
then
there.
because it puts out because it's actually uses the battery, it's got to make sure that it has to be MC tested. It doesn't interfere with pacemakers, or if it goes into explosive atmospheres, because it's got a charge on there. And I have worked with these sorts of systems in the past. We talked about the railways, we did it. But what we actually found out with the actual trialing of the technology, actually making it work in the course of their day-to-day activities, just didn't make sense. Plus there's a lot of issues with weights and certainly flame retard and washing and all of these things. This technology that we use, Viz DT, if it's on the garment, you don't even have to think about it. That's it. The job is done. You don't have to stand under a light. You don't have to put a switch on. It knows when it's dark because of the way that it works at the atomic level. It knows when it's dark, and that's when it goes into release phase. Yeah, and it just continues to work. The only trick really to it after we've developed the pigments and is actually how it's then adhered to, because it's very, very important that it doesn't come off the technology. So these adhesive systems we use, and the layers and the layering approach, the packing density is all really, really important to understand. On our heat applied product, for example, which is almost like it's like an iron-on that goes on there. There's 6 layers that go into that, just one tape. And that tape can't be a thick layer that then is making the garment not be able to bend, move, stretch, etc. So it's really the science behind it is really important, important, but also the manufacturing process, how we actually get to make that tape, and it consistently performs at that level. Each of the batches we run, we test it for all of the things that we claim. That's really important. So you've got full traceability, and that's really a key part of supplying, particularly in this market, firefighting market, because you need full traceability on performance. And so we need to make sure the product we send out does what it says on the tin. And that's what we do. And we test it in our labs and we can prove it. So I
think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's an incredible product. I'm constantly bowled over as I start to stretch our arms out a little bit further, and also as like the tide is turning, and we're getting so many subject matter experts and sector experts such as yourself sort of approach the podcast and want to talk about what they're doing. Because what always makes me so sad is a lot of people only see this innovation third hand, or they're lucky enough to see a video somewhere, or their chief fire officers have eventually decided to come and tell somebody about the really interesting conversation they had with Luke, 7 months ago. And what I love about this is that we're able to shortcut that process and then build that groundswell, because I'd love to see firefighters now across the UK and across the world, and other, we have a lot of other emergency services people listening in as well, really start banging the drum from their end as well, so that for those decisions that are made for financial reasons aren't the really pivotal ones that stop innovations like this making it, down to the boots on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing to me, Pete, really, and this is why I'm so grateful that you've invited me on this platform today, is to get the message out there. And it could be that an individual FRS, for whatever reason, doesn't want to buy this technology. That's okay. I have a dog in the fight. I would love to sell this technology. I understand that, yeah. But I want them to make that decision based upon they actually know about this technology, rather than they were not aware. And it's the great work that you're doing on your podcast, and similar platforms where I've done things on YouTube, etc., that are going to hopefully try and get the market to be aware that this technology is available. And at the end of the day, I love this job because the more successful we are, the safer the industry is. And if I can think that I've potentially stopped somebody being hurt or potentially saved a life throughout the course of what I do for a living, then what a greater way to have a job. I mean, you guys get to see it at the front end. I couldn't do your job.
But we're useless without all the kit. Do you know what I mean? To be honest, we always say we're eternal problem solvers, so we are really fantastic at solving things, but it relies on all of the structures, all of the control staff, admin, manufacturers, R&D people that are behind there. And you said it great there. It's not, whilst I'm very thankful for your appreciation for what the podcast does, but it's not about me. It's not the Pete Wakefield Show. It is only where it is, and it's very strange to have seen it grown to what it is. But sadly, it's actually a great articulation for the fact that this information wasn't getting out there in the first place. And that's the only reason it is as successful as it is. And also to yourself, man, I mean, you'll speak to no doubt loads of other fantastic, intelligent, knowledgeable people. But if they can't get over themselves and have the willingness to come and have these conversations, and I say get over themselves in the most respectful manner, because it is scary and some people don't articulate themselves as well as you do, but you just can't just talk about it, because this will be listened to probably, will be listened to 1,000 times, but also not just now, not just like an advert on TV or something like that. This will be listened to for the next God knows how many years. It lives on the internet forever.
And that's why it's so important what you're doing, because what you're helping to do is you're becoming a vehicle for people like myself and other people that have got products and innovations that can help with firefighter safety to get the message out there. So it's a huge thing that you're doing, and you should be very proud of what you do. And it's very, very professional, but also fun. And I think you get the messages across in a very, very cohesive way. So we love what you're doing. The people at Viz have been listening to your podcasts as well. So they're all excited.
Some of them are rubbish. Some of them are great.
I've not listened to them all.
It's the same thing, though, isn't it? It's R&D. We're constantly developing, constantly iterating. I try and get better at what we do and just continue to provide the platform for you guys and girls. But look, man, I'm really, really appreciative of your time. I know you've got family and everything, and people won't know that we're recording on a Saturday afternoon, but I really want to thank you for the time. If anybody does want to find out a little bit more about this, we will it's vizreflectives.com, and go and specifically have a look at the new Viz Lite DT Pro stuff, because that's the real game changer. And I think that's a lot of the stuff that we're seeing coming out into the market now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's our latest technology, and we think it's the glow performance is tremendous on that, and we're getting some extremely good feedback, which are culminating on FRSs globally that are now starting to buy that product. So very, very pleased about that. Would also like to offer to you, Pete, and anybody else who's on the podcast, if they ever want to come and see us, we're based in the UK. We would love for you to come and see our factory and see that how things are done.
I'd love to do that. I really would love to do that.
And it's a very British story that we're very, very proud of. And long may it continue. And it's only with the work like you're doing, Pete, and getting the message out there is going to certainly help. And at the end of the day, it is about increasing safety, and the more the key messages get out there, I think the better chance we have.
Thanks so much for your time today, Luke. I really appreciate it.
Pete, really appreciated your time, and no doubt we'll speak again, yeah.
Firefighters Podcast is put together to develop, inspire, and hopefully even motivate those individuals who have chosen to serve our communities and be part of the first responder family. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield. If you have enjoyed today's episode and you want to see the podcast continue, please head over to our Patreon page where you can support the ongoing efforts of the podcast. Please hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on whatever platform you're listening to. Please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.